Hello and welcome to the Savvy Corner. My name is Alisa, and if you're new here, I'd like to personally welcome you to the channel. I make videos on personal and business finances, financial well-being, and money mindset. If you're not new, I appreciate your stopping by again. One of the things we can do to take full responsibility for our financial situation is to identify and change bad money habits. I talked about financial responsibility in my previous video, which I will link for you below. In this video, I want to briefly explain what a habit is and how to break it, and finish off with 6 bad money habits to consider changing in 2020 or whenever you're watching this video. Let's jump straight into it. First of all, what is a habit? A habit is something we repeatedly do without giving it much thought. Something automatic, such as covering our mouths when we sneeze, or saying thank you when someone holds the door for us. There are studies that say that up to 40% of the actions we do on a daily basis are habits. They happen automatically. So habits are a learned behavior that we perform on repeat. In his book, Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about the structure of a habit as being a loop between cue, craving, response, and reward. In other words, there is something called a cue, a signal that triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which in turn provides a reward. That reward satisfies the craving, and once we've gone through the loop a few times, the reward becomes associated with the cue. To give you an example, let's assume that you are walking down the supermarket aisle, and when passing the bakery area, you smell fresh croissants. Smelling fresh croissants is the cue which triggers a craving. You'd like to taste some because they smell so delicious. The response is to buy one or a few and eat them. And the reward is that you've satisfied your craving for croissants. And in the future, if you do this often enough, every time you smell fresh croissants, you'll have some. It will become a habit. You can see that doing this very often will not go unnoticed on your silhouette. So whether that's a good or bad habit, I'll let you be the judge of that. The good news is that if you identify habits which are not serving you, you can change them. I will share with you one strategy to change a habit, again suggested by James Clear in his book Atomic Habits. If you'd like to read more on the subject and learn about other strategies to break bad habits, I will leave a link to his book in the description box below for you. So, one way to change a habit is by making the cue invisible, the craving unattractive, the response difficult, and the reward unsatisfying. In the example I shared earlier, making the cue invisible would be to avoid the bakery area altogether, so that you don't smell the croissants anymore, or to shop in a supermarket that doesn't even have a bakery section. Making the craving unattractive might be that you perhaps associate croissants with a lot of saturated fats, which are not good for your health. Now, I love croissants, so this is very relevant to me. One way I make the response difficult is to not take any small paper bags with me when I go shopping. I don't like wasting paper bags. I don't like waste in general, so I won't take any new ones from the supermarket. And I definitely don't like using plastic. So buying croissants would be very difficult for me in this case because, well, where would I put them? All right, so you get the idea of how this works. Basically, you make it so that the habit is impossible to do or requires a great effort in comparison with the reward. And now the moment you've been waiting for, let's talk about 6 bad money habits to consider changing. The first one is relying on credit cards and overdrafts as if it's your own money. This is something I come across very often in my work with clients, and I have seen the negative effects it can have on their financial situation. It increases their debt, decreases their credit score, and as a consequence, sometimes they're forced to accept unfavorable terms for future loans, such as higher interest rates. It's a damaging habit. What you can do to break it is to leave your credit card at home instead of carrying it with you all the time. Another strategy is, as you pay back some of this debt, to ask your bank to decrease your overdraft and credit card limits accordingly. So if your overdraft limit is 5,000 and you are maxed out, let's say, the moment you are 4,500 overdrawn, meaning that you've paid back 500, you ask your bank to reduce that limit to 4,500. And you continue to do this until you pay back the loan. This, of course, assumes that you are paying off your debt, but a lot of people are not able to shift that balance because they can't deal with the interest. If you're making minimum payments, you might not be able to make much progress because most of what you pay back is the interest. Of course, I generalize here, and I wouldn't be able to tell you if that's the case for you until I knew what your particular circumstances are, but do get in touch if you need help with this. Okay, I'm going to have to go through the next habits a lot quicker, otherwise we'll be here for a very long time. The second bad money habit to consider changing is not opening financial correspondence. This means that you risk missing out on payment deadlines and perhaps face penalties and extra charges. Also, you could be missing out on time-sensitive offers, such as a financial reward or an increased interest rate on your savings account. And that's what happened to me. I keep my emergency fund in a high-interest savings account, and a while ago I received a letter from the bank that was offering me an even higher interest if I added more money into the account. And of course, I jumped at the opportunity because keeping money in a savings account is not great to begin with, since it offers little return compared to other options, but that's not the story here. I was happy to be able to increase that return with little effort, because I basically added a tenner onto the account and secured a higher interest rate for 1 year. That's not bad for 5 minutes work. The third bad money habit to change is using language that comes from a place of scarcity. Not enough, I can't afford it, it's too expensive, it costs an arm and a leg. The way you talk about money is so important because it reflects the way you think about it. And the words that you use will impact your thoughts, so it becomes this loop that's difficult to get out of. Awareness is key here. Some people are not even aware of the language they use, so identifying that is the first step to changing it. I suggest observing your language without judgment for a week and writing it down. You might see patterns appearing, perhaps some favorite phrases or words that you like to use. The language you use is also closely related to emotions. So if you notice a lot of negative emotions coming up, I have a video on how to deal with them, which I will link on the screen and in the description box below. The fourth money habit you should consider changing is keeping up with the Joneses. That means buying things to attain or maintain a lifestyle in line with that of your peers, your neighbors, your friends, and so on. Most people do this to compete because they feel they should rise up to some standards that are set by other people. This is not only likely to hurt your purse, but it can have serious negative effects on your self-esteem, your confidence, and ultimately your mental health. The only person you should be competing with is yourself and your financial circumstances. What you see externally does not always reflect reality, because it is what other people allow you to see, what they want you to see. If you knew that lifestyle was fueled by debt and anxiety, I bet you wouldn't aspire to it. For more information about setting your own standards of financial success, please watch one of my previous videos, which I'll make sure to link for you. The next habit, number 5, is keeping your savings in your current account together with day-to-day expenditure money. It might be convenient to keep everything in one place, but it makes it really difficult to know how much money you have in savings and how much money you've got available to spend. It also increases the temptation to dip into your savings when you probably otherwise wouldn't have done so if your savings were out of sight, so to speak. What to do with your savings and where to keep them is not the subject of this video, but I recommend that you at least keep them in a separate account. If that account pays interest, that's even better. And finally, the sixth bad money habit to consider changing is not returning items that don't fit or that you don't need, that have defects, and so on. How many things have you bought that you never used and are cluttering your house, your garage, your space? Many people don't return things because of one or more of these reasons. They can't find the receipt, they remove the tag, or they can't be bothered to return it because it takes some effort and the item was relatively cheap. Changing this habit is pretty straightforward. Keep all of the receipts, maybe in a dedicated place. Don't remove tags until you're sure you want to keep the item. And if you know it's not a good purchase, make an effort to return it. Small amounts add up. If you were to make one of these purchases every month for, say, £7 each, in 1 year, you would be missing out on £84 if you don't return them. And let's face it, sometimes we buy stuff for a lot more than £7 and we never return it. Out of all the habits I shared in this video, this is probably the easiest one to change, so I suggest you start with that and gradually work your way through the others. I wish you the best of luck, and please let me know how you get on in the comments. If you have any other bad money habits examples, please leave them in the comments too. That's it from me for today. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing for more money-related content and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.